Welcome to 4th grade Unit 2, Structures, Functions, and Informational Processing. We're going to go ahead and talk through an overview of this unit. So the first big idea is that all plants and animals have internal and external structures that support growth, survival, behavior, and reproduction. So examples of that could be lungs or gills to get air, or plant structures in the leaf that allow carbon dioxide to come in and oxygen and water to leave. So just different structures, internal and external, that animals have that help them to survive. So the standard on that is construct an argument that plants and animals have internal and external structures that function to support survival, growth, behavior, and reproduction. The other big idea is that animals receive and process information. So we do that through our senses, through our nerves, and through our brain. Plants also can have those as well, but really the standard is focused on animals. So use a model to describe that animals receive different types of information through their senses, process the information in their brain, and respond to information in different ways. So really talking about how animals take in information and use that is really important. So if you want more background knowledge, there's a couple background videos that you can watch from Paul Anderson, and he does a great job of explaining the science concepts. So the first one is this one on structures and functions, and then the next one's on receiving information, how animals and humans even take in information. So the big stage one essential questions: how do internal and external structures support survival, growth, behavior, and reproduction? And then how do animals gather and process information? And so on the enduring understanding side, those are the things that we want students to be able to walk away with, the big ideas we want them to have when the unit is finished up. There's several ways that we're going to use integration of English language arts and math. There's a lot of opportunity for some observations and research, as well as taking notes, drawing pictures, and reading these picture books aloud throughout the unit. In math, there's not as much connection in math. Things like symmetry, or looking at different counting appendages like 6 and 8, things like that, how many legs of an insect or an arachnid, things like that may be a way to connect math, but there really isn't a lot of connections to mathematics throughout this unit. On the assessment side, there's several formative assessments that fall throughout the unit, as well as the unit scoring guide, which is gives you a good overview of what students should be able to do at the end of the unit. There's also a structures and functions chart that's going to be kind of essential to the overview of this unit and kind of guiding the process there. And then finally, students are working on a creature feature book page that can become part of a bigger class assignment. Also, at the end of the unit is a great time to do an ACT Aspire interim if that falls within your window, or a classroom assessment to get those ACT Aspire practice questions. There's also the exemplars and sandbox that can be accessed anytime throughout the year. On the materials, you're going to get bug boxes, these 10 magnifying bug boxes for an activity. A spray bottle, duck feathers, and hand lenses are things that are provided for you. You will need a few additional things. So night crawlers or earthworms are one of the bigger animals that you have to provide. Those can be found at Walmart or any bait shop. And the rest of it is just paper plates, paper cups, things that you should have in your kitchen, readily available items as well. We take a look at the unit plan. We spend the first week looking at plants, and then the next 4 weeks, or 3 weeks, are all about different animals. So bugs, then worms, ducks, and then humans to wrap up the flow of the unit. This is the structures and functions chart that students will be filling out throughout the unit. So for each column, there's places where students can write the different structures or add the different structures that meet those functions. And so this is something you'll be adding to as time goes on. You can make this digital as it is now, or you can have a paper copy if that suits your needs better. So let's take a look at plants and the structures and functions that plants have. So one of the activities is looking at a Venus flytrap and how it responds to stimulus, but really they're diving into the basic structure of plants. So researching roots, stems, leaves, flowers. What's the function of each of those structures, and how are they help to support the plant in survival? Towards the end of the unit, you can read this book called The Reason for a Flower, and then you can do a flower dissection to look at the different parts of a flower. There's a example of one you actually do. Getting flowers from a flower shop would be a great idea. See if they can donate them for you. Or even there's a digital example of taking the flower apart on the right-hand side, and those are also linked in the unit. So remember, after studying plants, you're going to add the structures to the chart. Then we're going to move on to animals, and we have quite a few picture-perfect units that we're using for this unit that we're just going to use pieces of. So not the entire unit, just parts and lessons of those. So the first one is called the perfect pet, or bugs, and where students are going to be out finding a bug, identifying the bug, what structures and functions do the bugs have and that make them unique, and then they're going to add that information into their chart. Then students are going to spend a few days looking at earthworms, and this is one of my favorite activities to use with students. They absolutely love the earthworm observation. So there's opportunities for observing earthworms, looking at their structures and functions, reading 2 additional picture books as well, and then they'll add that information to their chart. And then finally, they're going to look at ducks and how ducks have different structures and functions that will help them to survive in the wild. So good activities with duck feathers and oil glands and preening, things like that. They're really kind of fun things that students will enjoy looking at. Add information to the chart. They'll also look a little bit about human body systems. We're just going to really spend a few days on this. So it's not a big unit on human body, but it's really looking at what are some structures that we have that animals also have, and they're going to add that to their chart. And then finally, the kind of culmination of this activity is using this book called Creature Features. And in the book, Steve Jenkins, the author, did a great job of, they have these questions. Dear sun bear, why is your tongue so long? And then they have, so that's the structure, and then there's an explanation on the function. So students are going to be researching an animal like the long-eared joba or another animal, and they're going to be creating their own book page. So it'd be a great collaboration piece with your art teacher. It's something that I think students will really enjoy. And finally, students will add their animal to the Your Choice column on the Structures and Functions chart.